Hey guys, Jared with another tutorial video on how to build a clock using Java in processing. So we're actually going to build two clocks. We're going to build a digital clock and we're going to build an analog clock, but we're only going to use one class to do that. We're just going to have two separate functions to either display digital or to display analog. So I went ahead and I made my class. I also created an object or an instance of that class inside of my setup function and then a reference to that script. I worked on my constructor a little bit, adding an X and a Y position, and that'll be the center of my screen pretty much. So I set my size to be 500 by 500, so the center of my screen will be about 250 by 250. So we can go ahead and get started just by displaying the digital. We're going to do this using the text function, and we're also going to use something called concatenation to merge together two values. So I'm merging together my HM and S variables with a colon in between. And this is a really common practice to combine variables and combine like data types into basically one data type or one variable. The one thing that we'll notice about this is that when the value is less than 10, it is only going to be displaying that number, and it's not displaying a 0 in front of it. So we're going to do something called string insertion, and we'll be using the format method to do that. And basically all I'm saying is %02d, and that will take my variable and will pad 2 zeros onto it, which will basically just pad 1 since the variable itself is already one digit. So now instead of just 1, it'll display 0, 1. And I looked around, there was a little bug. What I was doing was accidentally implementing the integer instead of my string. So now when the number gets to 59, the next digit will be 0, 0. And then that'll count all the way to 0, 9, and then reset back to 10. And that's all inside of the update function. Next, what we're going to do is try to display an analog clock. So we have everything in that format that we need, and we can get started working on the actual clock shape. So just to start, we're going to just draw an ellipse. This is just going to be a circle in the middle of our screen, and I'm also going to draw a little dot in the middle of that circle as like the center of the circle. So I'll move my text down a little bit so that we can see this a little bit better. To do this, we're going to have to use a lot of math, and we're also going to have to use a lot of the unit circle. So if you're not familiar with your trigonometry, you might want to refresh a little bit before we get started. But we'll just take a deep breath and go into this pretty slowly. I'm going to make 3 variables representing the radius of my hour, minute, and hand, or my hour, minute, and second hands. So all we're going to do is display a line from the center of the circle outwards. And the second hand is going to be the largest, and the minute hand, or the hour hand, will be the smallest. So what I did there is I used the function map, which is going to rearrange a range that I have. It's going to remap a range. So I'm starting with second, and I'm building outwards using pi and half pi to be able to display basically what radius I should be going at, or what distance I should be going at, and then also what angle I should be rotating at. And I'm doing the same idea with my hour and my minute, except I'm also using a function called norm. I would really recommend you guys go to processing.org/references to learn more about the map function and the norm function. They are very similar, but they do different things. So now that I have those values, I can just draw a line from my XY position and then outwards using cosine and sine multiplied by the radius attached to that specific line. So for my second hand, I'd multiply by my second radius. So now that we have a clock, I'm going to draw all the points around the clock just by writing a loop and finding an angle, and then again multiplying by cosine for x and sine for y. Now I should have 12 dots around my circle. And we have a finished clock and an analog clock as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can always feel free to reach out to me. And if you did enjoy the content, or if you enjoy the content I'm posting, feel free to like the video and subscribe. Again, I'm going to be posting videos like this pretty regularly, so if you have any problems with coding, I know it can be really fucking confusing sometimes, so I'm trying my best to make it as thorough as I can in the time frame that I have. So I will see you in the next one, and peace out.